Hello guys and welcome. Today I'm gonna be discussing my unstable bomber PVE build that I posted a few days ago, where I killed Trent Pro in under 10 seconds. So a lot of you guys seem to like that video and were asking me to make a guide on how I made this build. So here we go. I hope you like it. So first off, obviously the pistol that I'm using with this build is the Jaws, and you can buy this in the wish machine for 8,000 star chromes. The calibration that I'm using with this weapon is a gold rapid shot style with fire rate plus 25%, magazine capacity plus 40%, attack minus 15%, and 2 crit rate substats. The reason why I chose the rapid shot style over the precision style is because of the magazine capacity plus 40%. The magazine capacity is probably the most important part of this build, and I'm gonna explain that later as we go through the mod that I'm using on this weapon. So the mod that I'm using on this weapon is called Bombardier Souvenir. The core effect is when triggering unstable bomber, it automatically refills 10% of your magazine. What that means is every time I proc unstable bomber, it's gonna refill 10% of whatever the total magazine capacity I have on this pistol, which right now is 20, which is why I told you guys that the magazine capacity is very important, because to make this build work, you will need at least 20 total ammo on your pistol. So I'm gonna show you how it works. I'm gonna try to shoot this dummy, and every time the unstable bomber procs, it's gonna refill 2 ammo in my magazine. See? Next are the armors that I'm using and what mods I'm using with them. I'm using a 3-piece Lone Wolf, 2-piece Savior, and the Shaman Vulture Top. The Shaman Vulture Top is probably the most important part of this armor piece because it gives you plus 35% crit rate for 3 seconds when you activate Unstable Bomber. For the helmet mod, I'm using Deviation Expert, and the substats that we're looking for is actually crit damage, weapon damage, or status damage. And as you can see, I do not have any of those on this helmet mod. I got pretty unlucky. The only reason I'm using this one is because it has magazine capacity plus 9.6%, which I need to be able to hit that 20 maximum ammo on my pistol. You can actually swap out Deviation Expert with Faithful Strike, which you're not gonna deal any more weak spot damage, but it's gonna give you 10% more crit rate and 30% more crit damage. Now, I swap this out, this Deviation Export and the Faithful Strike, from time to time, especially if I'm running silos or great ones that doesn't have any weak spot, or they have like a pretty hard weak spot to hit. For example, the Fridge boss in one of the silos, I forgot the silo name, but there's a Fridge boss. For the Leah Labs as well, the mobs there does have weak spots, but it's pretty hard to hit. So I'm using Faithful Strike when running Leah Labs. Other than that, I'm usually just running Deviation Expert, especially on great ones. Great ones have a pretty easy to hit weak spots, so I'm using Deviation Experts because hitting weak spots will always give you like better damage overall, especially if they're standing still. The probably biggest example is going to be Prime Wars. When the shield breaks, they're gonna be stationary, so their weak spot are gonna be pretty easy to hit. So Deviation Expert is what I use when running Prime Wars, great ones. But Faithful Strike, again, like I said, if the mobs are weak spots are pretty hard to hit, or they have no weak spots at all. For the mask, I'm running Point Detonation, and a lot of people are actually asking where I got my Point Detonation Unstable Bomber mod. As you can see, I have Unstable Bomber damage and Unstable Bomber crit damage on this one. I got this by doing Prime Wars on the reward boxes on Prime Wars. I suggest opening it with controllers if you're doing Prime War Pro or Prime War Nightmare, because those two always gives purple substats on your mods. For my gloves mod, I'm using Crit Amplifier, which has a substat of crit damage, weapon damage, and normal enemies. So I need those 3, so I got lucky with this one. You can swap this out with a crit boost. I actually do swap this out from time to time as well, especially if I need the magazine capacity on my crit boost. For the boots, I'm using covered advance with crit damage, damage against great ones, and weapon damage. For the pants, I'm using dead shot, and my attribute is a gold crit damage, which I got lucky on that one. For my armor mod, I'm using a blue crit damage enhancement with 2% crit rate and 12% crit damage. The only reason I'm using this one is because it has magazine capacity 4.8%, and I needed that to hit my 20 total ammo on my pistol. If not, I would be using the rejuvenating gold mod on my armor. This is always gonna be better than this blue one because when you're running silos, or when you're running dungeons or anything like that, healing will always be like a very great utility, and this one gives you like 5% HP when you kill a mob and 15% HP when you're below 60% HP per kill. So that's a very good like utility for your runs, and I don't actually recommend using this blue mod. Like I said, I'm only using it because it has the magazine capacity that I need for my build. But if this rejuvenating gold mod had like magazine capacity and crit damage, I will be using this one instead. The secondary weapon that I'm using right now is actually different from what I'm using on my previous video when I killed the Trent Pro. I'm using the wildfire pistol right now just because it's so much easier to trigger the bullseye on this one. You do not need to hit the weak spot, although it only has 60% chance, but it has 12 mags. So in real gaming situations, you're mostly gonna use wildfire more than the crossbow, especially if you're running silos. For my melee weapon, I'm using the long axe, which I'm only using because of its weapon feature, which when you use a heavy attack, it's gonna activate Fortress Warfare, and you can actually cancel the heavy attack animation, and the Fortress Warfare is still gonna apply. So for example, I'm gonna heavy attack and swap to my weapon. As you can see, the Fortress Warfare still activates. So that's the only reason why I'm using this melee weapon. Last but not least is the cradles. So the cradle I'm using is handgun enhancement, deviation master, rapid aid, tactical combo, status enhancement, sprint, first round blast, and steady hand. You can actually swap out steady hand with bounty hunter depending on what dungeon you're gonna be running. So if you're only gonna be fighting great ones, I would suggest steady hand. If you're gonna be running silos, which has a lot of mobs, I would suggest bounty hunter. This one is also good on Lia Labs, especially if you're using the wildfire pistol, which if you mark a target, it's gonna spread with other mobs within the area if they're near each other. So bounty hunter will reapply the weapon damage that you get. So if you kill a marked target, it's gonna give you weak spot damage plus 35% and weapon damage plus 25%, which is a lot for 15 seconds. So yeah, swap this out every now and then, see what you like more: steady hand when a stationary boss, and bounty hunter on silos. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. But before you go, I just want to give you guys one last piece of advice, and that is, please do not trust the damage that you're doing on these training dummies, because that is not a good representation of what you can do in dungeons, in silos, or in primors. I see a lot of these YouTubers where they're showcasing how much they're doing on the training dummies, but please do not trust it. This is only the baseline. Like it's a good baseline. You can still do your you can still check if you're increasing your damage or not, but as far as I know, these training dummies, the normal enemy substats on your mods affect how much you deal with these training dummies. So for example, if my mods have like damage against normal enemies, if my mods all have damage against normal enemies, of course I'm gonna do a lot more damage on these training dummies, because that's what they are. They are considered as normal enemies. But when you're fighting elites in Lia Labs, when you're fighting great ones, when you're fighting the prime war bosses, it's gonna be a lot different. And look and see how much I'm doing. I see a lot of these YouTubers doing like 70k DPS without deviation or some shit. And this is the only thing that I'm doing right now. I have like 34k DPS. Which is a lot, you know, but it's not a lot if you compare to the other ones that I see in YouTube. So, please, again, do not trust what you do in these training dummies. Also, these training dummies are stationary. You can always hit their weak spots. But in real gaming situations on dungeons and silos, they're not always gonna hit the weak spots. Trust me. Anyway, goodbye guys. See you guys on the next one. Peace.